With Namco and Atari collaborating, we've got some really cool re-releases of Atari 7800 games. Galaga, Dig Dug, Xevious, and of course we got that new Pac-Man game. But unfortunately, one game is not going to get a re-release, I don't think, anytime soon, because it both is and isn't Namco. Coach Troy here, and we're going to talk about Ms Pac-Man. Ah, Ms Pac-Man, the game that is more than just Pac-Man with a bow, the game that is both Namco and not Namco. What exactly is it? Well, to very briefly summarize, the early days of video games was kind of like the Wild West. So when you had a game as popular and successful as Pac-Man, you were going to have plenty of clones. And some developers at GCC created Crazy Otto, which was definitely a play off of Pac-Man. So after all those fun, crazy copyright lawsuits, the developers took this game to Midway, which was the American distributor of all the Namco games like Pac-Man. They loved all the changes to the game and decided to make it part of the Pac-Man family. So after much tweaking and design changes, they came up with what is now Ms Pac-Man. This is a game that took the concept of Pac-Man, eating the dots, going through the maze, power pellets to eat ghosts, all that good stuff, and just added to it a variety of different levels. You would actually move faster. More interesting cutscenes too, right? There's a whole romance love story brewing in there. Good stuff, man. And will this amazing, groundbreaking game see a new release for your 7800 plus systems? Probably not, because while Namco, I believe, does own the rights, the royalties belong to Atgames at the moment. I believe they bought those rights in some kind of merger, some kind of deal. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't exactly get it. But because of that little detail there, we probably are not going to see the reunion love story that we all want to. No, instead, we've got Pac-Mom, a character that we all just kind of want to forget about. In fact, how many of you guys even know who Pac-Mom is? The replacement character that Namco put out to kind of cover up the history. But no, Ms Pac-Man is too strong of a game. She's too proud and fierce a woman to let someone else take her place. And I might be talking a little bit too much about just an arcade port of a game. But that being said, Ms Pac-Man on the Atari has got an interesting history. With the 2600 port of Pac-Man kind of being a big flop, and while people blaming it for the crash of the market, I wouldn't go that far. And again, I don't think it's that bad of a game. You just gotta tamper those expectations. Still, consumers were not very happy with it, but they did try to right the ship by releasing Ms Pac-Man, and what a port it was. This had the different levels, it looked better, it looked like Pac-Man, alright? It had cutscenes, it was quality, the sound was better, everything about this game was light years better than the Pac-Man game was. Both games were also ported to the 5200 where they definitely had an upgrade, but we're not going to get into that because the controller sucks, and I don't even really try to play it. But on the 7800, the only Pac-Man game that we got, at least until recently, was Ms Pac-Man, and it was a very, very good port of the game, at least in my perspective. While not an exact port, it does a very good job of having these similar mazes, similar colors, and similar sound. It did have the detriment of the old Atari 2600 sound chip, but it still, I think, did a very, very good job in making quality noises that did not irritate you like, say, Donkey Kong did. But enough of my rambling about it. Let's go check out this game. And here is the cast. We have Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Sue. That is right, as this is Ms Pac-Man, Clyde is not joining us. It is going to be Sue. Now these are the same ghosts from Pac-Man, although you can see that the colors are a little bit different. And here's our Lady of the Hour, Ms Pac-Man, bow and all. Now I say cast of characters because the theme of this, according to the manual, is that it is a play, a stage production. In fact, they refer to the mazes as stages. Controls are called stage directions, and the cutscenes are intermissions. I guess that explains why they are started with a clapperboard. But not really. If they're intermissions, then they wouldn't have anybody watching them. But maybe I'm thinking just a little too deeply about this. It is just Ms Pac-Man after all. That's enough nonsense. Let's get a game going. Now, if you're not familiar with the world of Pac-Man, your job is to clear each maze of all its dots while avoiding the dreaded ghosts. Use power pellets to make you temporarily strong enough to take out these ghosts by gobbling them up as well. Without it, any contact with these ghosts would cause an instant death, so be careful. When you do have a power pellet, you get 200 points for a ghost when you eat it, and that score will double for each consecutive ghost, up to 1600. And another key difference from Pac-Man is the fruit. It will not sit stationary in the middle of the screen, no, it will actually bounce around, and you'll have to chase it down. Once you clear a maze of dots, it will reset, and you will begin again. Clear enough mazes, and you will get a cutscene, or intermission, if you will. And these intermissions tell a love story. Quite one for the ages, if you will. This will bring Ms Pac-Man to an entirely new maze to continue her gluttonous journey, gobbling dots and eating ghosts. There are 3 intermissions on this port, so one is missing, but it does have all 4 mazes. The mazes are a little bit different from the arcade because the aspect ratio is different, but they still hold the same basic designs. And while not quite as bright as the arcade, it is still very, very colorful, and I think it looks pretty good. The ghosts are not flickery at all, and you can see the bow. The eyes, though, there's something about the eyes. Now you'll notice the sound is similar to the 2600 Ms Pac-Man, because it does use the same TIA chip, but it does sound much, much better, much smoother, not as coarse. It's definitely a refined sound. And compared to some of the other 7800 games, I'd say that this is a better sounding game than most. But how does it play? That is the important thing. How does it play? Well, I will say Ms Pac-Man controls very, very smooth. Though I will say use a joystick, don't use the gamepad. Gamepads are not for maze games like this. You'll find that it's much easier with the joystick. And the ghosts behave as they're supposed to, each with their separate personalities. The relentless chaser that is Blinky, Pinky looking to ambush you, Inky being erratic, and of course Sue, who's just going to move around a little bit slowly. The difficulty slowly ramps up as you pass through each maze, getting especially hard around the pear and pretzel levels. All in all, this is a very faithful adaptation of Ms Pac-Man and definitely captures the spirit of the game. It would be the only Ms Pac-Man available on this generation of console until the unlicensed Tengen came out in 1990, and it wouldn't be until 1993 when Namco decided to release their own. So for several years, if you wanted to play Ms Pac-Man on your home console, this was the way to do it. So that is Ms Pac-Man for the 7800. A quality port. I'm just going to go out and say it. Again, it looks very good. The graphics are nice and colorful. They might not be 100% arcade accurate. It obviously isn't going to be. The maze is going to be a little bit differently shaped, but generally is the same. It's got 4 different stages. The ghosts are all there. They act right. They have the correct personalities, which is really cool to see. The cutscenes are also nice as well. This game has got super interesting roots. Almost the history of Ms Pac-Man might be even more interesting than the game itself. But still, that's a story for another time. Right now, I'm just going to have fun playing this one. Tell me what you guys think. Is this as good a game as I think it is? Is there still room for Ms Pac-Man with the double feature out? And do you think Namco should just kind of suck it up, deal with it, and put out another copy of Ms Pac-Man? This is Coach Troy. Thanks for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Like, she's got to be doing it on purpose. Like, she knows that that's the camera. There's no other way she could just purposely sit like that. What am I going to do with you?